So the topic of this video is, what do you even care about anymore? And this comes from discussions I've been following on my Discord and just some other areas. So this is a video that I have talked about this in the past, but I think it would be a good time to revisit this. I think it's timely right now. So first thing I just want to start off with, just put out there, is divorce is hard, and divorce with a toxic person is like nearly impossible. It's not impossible, but it feels like it's impossible. You can get beat down by this entire process. This includes your ex, mutual friends, quote unquote friends, family, quote unquote family, and even your kids. Trying to make excuses for your family and friends is complicated. Your kids, you have to understand that they're going through a really rough process as well. And although at times they will appear to side against you, you got to remember that they're going through a rough time too. And if you're dealing with a toxic, high conflict, narcissistic ex, it adds a whole nother level of complexity to this entire disaster, because your children, whether they're 5 years old or they're 18 years old, are going to be influenced by that. And you have to expect that if you've been in a toxic situation, toxic relationship, the likelihood that your kids are their emotional maturity is on track is highly unlikely. So just keep that in mind. The other thing I just want to mention is that your perspective is going to be completely obliterated on this. And the view of your future is going to you're going to feel like you are going to feel like you have had the rug ripped out from underneath you. Now, one of the examples I can give you of mine, oh man, this screwed me up. This was incredibly tough. When I was going through this, I had a view of my life. I had a view of my future, of my professional career. And in an instant, almost instantaneously, all that changed. It was like waking up one moment. You know what? It wasn't even like waking up to a new day. It was like in the middle of the day, you're cruising along, and then bam, everything changes. Really hard to process and deal with this. And this is probably the most dangerous time for most people, especially men, because like boneheads, we all have a tendency to equate our value and our success with external forces. We don't do it internally. I have a lot of videos where I talk about the importance of self-validation, and it's super important. But I'll tell you, when I went through that and, I based my wealth on my worth on my career, on the fact that I was married for almost 2 decades, that I had 3 kids, that I had I had that life. But when you wake up one day and it's all gone, it makes it really hard, because it's like, well, who am I now? What am I doing? What's my life about? What am I going to accomplish? It's a devastating blow. This is the most dangerous time of this experience. And it's what really led to my most dark days. If you go back to my early part of my channel, I have videos about dark days. Now, when I made those videos, I wasn't in the dark days anymore, but I was remembering them, and I had people were in that part, and I wanted to the main point of mentioning that is to show that you can be in dark days and it can feel like it's completely destroying your life, and you can really start to question, what's the point? What's the point anymore? But look at me now, right? I made it through those dark days. You can make it through those dark days too. Here's the thing. All of this can really beat you down. It can make you feel like the world is absolutely against you. And that will make you feel crazy. And the great part about that is, if you go to a therapist and you say, oh my God, the world's against me, there's a book, I don't have it anymore, the DSM, and there's some other little criteria that professionals use. And if you say something like that, it starts setting down a path thinking that you have a certain problem. The problem is that they don't realize, unless they understand this type of abuse and this type of experience, trauma-based therapists do, so seek them out. They will assume you have a different issue, and they're not looking at the fact that your entire world has just obliterated itself in a moment, and that in that particular situation that you are in, legitimately does feel like the entire world against you. But you have to be really careful when you're at that time, because those thoughts, that catastrophic thinking, can just feed upon itself more and more and more until you really start to make decisions that make things worse. This can include reacting a certain way to your ex, that gives them all the material that they need to say, oh my God, I'm scared. This is horrible. And guys, just everybody watching this, I mean, I know this happens a lot to men. This does happen to females too. If you make a drastic mistake and you're dealing with somebody who is just waiting for you to make that mistake to leverage against it, they will. And there's consequences for it. So that can really put a damper on your future. I just want to say, if you're coming to my channel and you've just found it and you've made mistakes, do not think, oh my God, I've made these mistakes. I've completely destroyed everything. There's no recovery from it. Yes, you can recover from it. Yes, there are opportunities to do it. It makes it a little harder, maybe a lot harder, but do not take that as like, oh, all is lost. I made the mistake and I can't recover from it. Yes, you can. It's just harder, but there's more steps you have to take. But at the end of it, the payoff is you get your life back. Another example, and I just want to mention this just because it's easy for people, I think, to look at my situation now and go, oh, okay, well, you went through it. You're 10 years down the road. It was a cakewalk. You got 50-50 custody. Everything's great. No, it has not always been great. It has been one hell of a frustrating experience. At my lowest point during the divorce, I finally got so angry and disgusted about this whole thing that I actually told my attorney to go for everything and let's just destroy everything. I told my attorney I didn't care anymore. I was so irritated. The fact that I felt like I was going to have to pay this first person, that I was going to basically be an indentured servant, a slave to this person for the rest of my life just so that they could, skip along. I was angry and I told them, go for everything, go for full custody, scorched earth. I will take out every loan I can. I will destroy my finances, but I am done with it and I don't care anymore. Now, I am extremely lucky that my attorney was basically a decent person and not a complete scumbag, because they could have easily said, okay, dumbass, that's what you want to do. Give us your credit card number and we'll take all your money and we will do this. Be careful. Be careful telling your attorney to do something, because they can say, okay, Mr. Bill has said that this is the direction that he is directing us to go. And I am, basically they're the boss and this is what they're telling me to do. And they might say, this is not a good idea. Fortunately, mine, got this thing to stop. You don't want to put yourself in that situation, because a lot of times they'll do it. Like, for instance, if you tell them, you know what, forget it, give them everything. Okay, all right, I can give them, my client just said to give the other person everything. I'll give them everything. I can close this out, do my billing, and hey, they're going to have to deal with it. Be careful of that. My point about this is I went through the same thought process. I was ready to turn myself into a martyr. Do not burn yourself to the ground. This is the long haul. This is a long haul situation. Do not make a decision that you think wins the battle that destroys the war. Do not do that. Okay, but now I have to get into basically a controversial opinion that I have. I want you to really listen to me on this one, because this can be taken out of context. And that opinion is sometimes you have to take a break. But this is after taking some time to really think about what you're planning to do. Do not get into the mode to where you get so frustrated that you're like, okay, fine, I don't care. I'll just give them the kids. I'll be done and I'll just move on. Sorry if I hit the mic. But do not make that decision in haste. You have to really think this through. You have to think through what is the right course of action. Do not get really frustrated and in a moment make a decision. Like I said, I almost did that myself. I almost did that myself a couple of times. I did it with the story I just mentioned before. And there was another period of time where something happened with the retirement fund, and I was so frustrated that I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I cannot be engaged or at the hip with this person for the rest of my life with them doing this. And I was literally at the point where I was ready to say, okay, I'm done. You know what? I'm done. I was still fighting with the kids. The kids didn't understand what was going on. I didn't have any information to show that things would get better. And I was at my breaking point, but ultimately I was able to take a pause, regroup, get some rest, rethink it, and change my mind. But here's the thing. If you are at your breaking point, if you are at the point to where this is going to consume and destroy you and end you, you have to pick yourself first. Now, the thing is that you have to do it. You have to really think it through, and you have to really say, okay, it's getting down to the brass tacks. And if I don't do something different, I'm not going to be able to make it through it. I've reached those points a few times through this, but I was able to push myself through. At the end of the day, only you really understand what your true breaking point is. I've talked to a lot of people who get to that point, and then when I deep dive in the conversation with them, I find out that maybe they just came off an 18-hour shift, you haven't slept, they're sick, there's some other extenuating circumstances that is lowering their threshold to be able to deal with this stuff to the point to where they're considering making really rash decisions. One of the things that is a benefit of this that we often miss is that we have more time on this than we really think. Most of the time, you do not have to make a decision today. You do not have to say, okay, I'm on a timeline, I'm on a deadline, I have to do something today. Most of the time, that's not the case. So don't put yourself in that situation. So here's the deal. This experience is going to bend you as close as you've ever been to your breaking point. There are times I didn't think, I couldn't even imagine that I was going to be able to get through this. When I look back at this, I'm about at the 10-year mark. When I look back at this at the 1-year mark, the 2-year mark, it seemed like an insurmountable task to be able to overcome this. Where I'm at today, emotionally, I could not imagine or picture the life I have now. So if you are in the early part of this and you are struggling and you're like, oh my God, this is a nightmare. This will never end. This person is gonna nitpick me to death, so to speak. It feels like it right now, but it's not gonna feel that way forever. So do not give up. So the thing is there is life after this. This experience will transform your life in a positive way that you cannot even imagine right now. And I'm telling you that, I was just talking about that, I'm telling you that from my personal experience, and I'm telling you that from doing this YouTube channel for over 5 years now, and the people I've interacted with who've been in this for a period of, for an extended period of time, a few years, most people say this, most people see this, what I'm saying right now about the transformation is true. And it's the weirdest thing, right? Because you'll look at it, there will come a time where you will look at this experience and you'll go, holy crap, this set me on a path that made my life tremendously better. And you're almost going to be grateful for it. I know that sounds weird right now, but just trust me, there is a part in this where everything starts to shift. Now, talking about the transformation, yeah, you're going through a transformation right now, and it is a painful process that feels like your entire world has like exploded, like the planet has blown up, and how in the world are you going to find a way, to survive that, right? The thing is, there are always ways you can get your life back. Even if you've lost everything, you've lost, maybe your kids have been alienated, you've lost everything. There is a way to turn this around to where you can find peace and joy in your life. Now, the problem is, to roll this back up with what I was talking about before, when our value is based on everything that we had yesterday before all this stuff happened, you can't equate your life to that mode anymore because you're not going to get anywhere if you do that. And I'll tell you, that was a hard part for me to struggle with. I didn't understand that, and I didn't even think it was possible, and I thought it was basically fantasy land. But I'll tell you that my perspective on life has changed. My give a F factor of what I even care about anymore has completely changed. Not in a bad way. I mean, I'm not bitter. I'm not going around going, F everyone, and that X is, bleep, 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 or anything like that. I'm not talking about that. There's a way where you realize, you know what? I don't give a crap about the X anymore. I mean, even at work, there are things I'll look at, I'm like, yeah, don't care about that. Don't care about that. I do care about that. But, there's things that are like, does it really rise to the level that it needs to negatively affect your life? That right there, this hasn't been a fun experience, but I'll tell you, just that perspective shift has changed my life. Like I've already said, has changed my life in a way that I never would have imagined, and I am grateful for. So on that, hopefully this makes sense. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button, ring the bell notification so you don't miss anything. help a dude out and comment and hit the like button, all that kind of stuff, so that YouTube is like, hey, people like this stuff, and hang in there. Hang in there. Don't let the X win and break you whenever you actually have more strength than you really believe.